Hello dear grade 6 children. Today we are going to learn the 9th lesson of the science textbook. That is heat and its effects. What have we learned about heat, children? Do you know anything about heat? Now do you remember in the second lesson we learned about the environment, the things in the environment, and under that we learned that things in the environment can be divided into two parts as matter and energy. Now heat is a type of energy and heat is also known as thermal energy. Now apart from heat as an energy, what are the other things that we have to learn about heat? Let us discuss. Right. So basically we are going to learn this lesson under three main topics. The first topic is heat generation. So under this one we are going to learn what are the different methods of generating heat or producing heat. Second topic, effects of heat. So under this topic we are going to learn that because of heat there are different changes take place. Understand, children? So under this topic we are going to learn 4 different effects of heat. The last topic, the effects of heat to the environment. And under this one we are going to learn how heat affects the environmental changes. Let's start the lesson. Right. Look at these two pictures. Now this picture gives a sunny day. You all can see this person is sweating. What can you see in this picture, children? You all can see this person is wearing warm clothes. His body is covered with warm clothes. He must be in a place with very low temperature, right? He must be in a very cold place. Right, children? We'll go through this. Go to a place where sunlight falls abundantly. Stay there for about 5 minutes. Now let us think that when we go to the playground during the daytime, when you are playing, what will happen? You will feel tired and after a little while you will start sweating. What is the reason for sweating, children? Even if you don't play, just by standing outside when there is a lot of sunlight, what will happen? After a little while you will start sweating. What is the reason, children? That is because when the environmental temperature increases because of the sun's heat, our body also can feel that. Our body temperature also increases. Because our body temperature increases, to reduce that amount of temperature, we start sweating. Right, children? So what will happen if we go to a very cold place like Nuwara? We start shivering. Right, children? That is because when we go to an environment with low temperature or to a cold environment, what will happen? Our body can feel that change of the environment. Right, children? So our body temperature also reduces. In order to increase the reduced amount of body temperature, we start shivering. Right, children? So go to a place where sunlight falls abundantly. Stay there for about 5 minutes. What do you feel? You will feel warm. So we'll start sweating. During the daytime, the surrounding gets warm because of the sunlight. Right, now I already explained y'all. Why does this happen? During the daytime, when we get a lot of sunlight, the environment gets heated up because of the sun's heat. Right, children? We also can feel that. Okay? Now, when we consider about the different places of the earth, different places of the environment, do all the places get heated up in the same way, children? So sometimes when it is very sunny, when we go under a large tree, what will we feel, children? We'll feel very cool under the tree. Right, children? Which means even though in an area like large playground, in that type of place gets heated up faster, when we consider a large tree, under the large tree does not get heated up faster. That is because of the shade given by the tree. That area doesn't get heated up much. Okay, children? So to understand this better, now here, does everything in the environment get warm equally? To understand this better, we are going to do a very simple activity now. Okay, our first activity of this lesson. checking whether every place in the environment get warm equally. Right, children? So what are the materials we need? We need only one material, a thermometer. Why do we need a thermometer? Because we are going to check the temperature of different places. So the instrument we use to measure the temperature is thermometer. Right, children? Let's write thermometer. Okay, so how to do this activity? Right. Go to some different places in your school garden with your teacher and measure the temperature. Now this you all can do as a group activity. Right? This will be a very interesting activity. So what are the different places in the school garden? We'll see a place where there is plenty of sunlight. We can consider the playground. Okay? Under a large tree. Okay, we can pick a large tree, and under the large tree we can measure the temperature. Right? We can dig a hole in soil and we can measure the temperature with the thermometer. Right? A sample of soil taken from a dry place. Okay? A sample of soil taken from a wet place. Water gathered in a certain place. Now some schools there are small ponds, or you can even use small tanks. Okay, children? So you have to collect water from this type of place and you have to measure the temperature. Right? So and note down the temperature shown in the thermometer. You have to read the thermometer correctly and you have to write the temperature and check whether what are the differences between the temperatures. Now when I am going to show you this activity, I am not going to go out to do this activity. Instead, I am going to collect different soil samples and a water sample from different places, and I am going to measure the temperature and show you all. Let's do that activity now. Right, children. Now we are going to do this activity to show that in different places the temperature is different. So instead of going out to do this activity, here I have taken two different types of soil samples and a water sample from different places. So look at this first soil sample, children. I collected the soil sample from under a large tree. Right? The second soil sample was taken from where there is plenty of sunlight. And this water sample was taken from a pond. Okay? So I am going to show you how to measure the temperature, and we are going to check whether the temperature of these three samples are same or different. Okay? So this is the thermometer I am going to use. Right? You all can see there's a bulb. In order to observe the temperature, in order to measure the temperature of each sample, I have to immerse this bulb in each sample. Okay? Right. First of all, I am going to take the first soil sample which I collected from under a tree. Check whether you can see. Okay, children. So if you observe this carefully, you can see the temperature is about 24. So this thermometer is calibrated in Celsius. Therefore, this is 24 degrees Celsius. Right? Now I'm going to measure the temperature of the second soil sample. First, we have to wipe the bulb carefully, and then we are going to immerse it in this second soil sample. So you all can see the temperature is about 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, children? So which means temperature is little higher than that of the first soil sample. Okay? Right. We'll measure the temperature of the water sample as well. So you all can see it's about 24 degrees Celsius this time. Okay, children? Right. After doing this activity, it's very clear, children, in different places of the environment gets heated up in different rates. Okay, children? So the first soil sample was taken from under a tree because that place is very shady. That soil doesn't get heated up because of sunlight much. Second soil sample I collected from a place where there is enough sunlight, a lot of sunlight, right? So that type of place gets heated up really fast. Therefore, the temperature is little higher. So when you consider the water sample, this is taken from pond. So this water sample also, compared to soil, doesn't get heated up really fast. Therefore, the temperature is less than the second soil sample. Okay, children. So after doing this activity, it's very clear that different places of the environment gets heated up because of sunlight at different rates. Right, children? So you observed what happens, right? So do you remember what we did? So you all are supposed to go to these places and measure the temperature of these different places. But when I was doing the activity, I collected 2 soil samples and 1 water sample, right? So do you remember from which places I collected the soil samples? A place where there is plenty of sunlight and under a large tree. Right, children? So, and the third one was the water sample collected from a pond. Okay? So, it was very clear when I was measuring the temperature of these 3 samples, they are quite different. Okay? So, for example, the temperature of the soil sample taken from a place where there is plenty of sunlight was higher than the other 2 samples. Why do you think is the reason, children? That is because these type of places get heated up because of the sunlight. As I mentioned earlier, when we consider the place under a large tree, because of the shade given by the tree, that soil doesn't get heated up much. Okay, children? What about water? Even though the water gets heated up, water has the ability to absorb a large amount of heat. Right, children? Therefore, the temperature of water is also less than that of the first soil sample. Right, children? So, after this activity, it's very clear different places of the environment gets heated up in different amounts, not in the same way. Okay? Let's write this observation. So, observation. The temperatures places are different. Okay, the temperatures of different places are different. And when you do this activity, you can include as a table, you can mention what are the places and what are the temperatures, right? So I collected only 3 samples, 2 soil samples and 1 water sample. But when you do this activity as a group, you can go to different other places as well. Okay, so what is the conclusion? So the conclusion is different places of the environment get heated up in different amounts. Okay, let's write. Different places of the environment get heated up at different amounts or different rates. Okay, children? Different places of the environment get heated up at different amounts. Okay? So the observation was the temperatures of different places are different. So even though we did not go to these places during the activity, when we write the observation, we can write the temperatures of different places are different because it was clear when we were measuring the temperatures of different samples. Okay, children? So the conclusion is different places of the environment get heated up at different amounts. What is the reason? Some places are very well exposed to the sunlight, and some other places are not that well exposed to sunlight. Understand, children? Right. So the environment gets heated during the daytime due to sunlight. Right? Due to sunlight. And it gets cold during the night. What is the reason for this, children? During the daytime, when the sunlight falls onto different areas of the environment, these different areas and the different substances, objects present in those areas can absorb the heat given by the sun. Right, children? So that is why during the daytime, the environment gets heated because of the sunlight. Okay, children? Now, it gets cool during the night. What is the reason, children? During the night, there is no sunlight. Therefore, the objects that are already heated up during the daytime, they release the heat during the night time. Okay, children? Therefore, because of release of heat, they cool down, right? And it gets cool during the night. Okay, children? This process is one of the major factors which affect the existence of life on Earth. What is the reason, children? How is this process important for our living? Now, to do any kind of activity in the living organisms, there should be a certain amount of temperature. That temperature is given by the sunlight. So during the daytime, because of the sun's heat, the earth gets heated up and it must be there. That temperature must be there to carry out our day-to-day activities. Right? What will happen if the sun was not there? The earth will be a freezing ball of ice. Okay? To maintain the optimum temperature of the living beings, the heat given by the sun is very important. Right? So during the night time, because there is no sunlight, what happens? The objects already heated up during the daytime cool down by releasing heat. This process is also very important, children. What if we didn't have a night time? What if we had sunlight throughout the 24 hours? Then the objects will get heated up too much and we will die of very high temperature. Okay, children? Therefore, absorbing heat during the daytime and releasing the heat during the night time, both very important activities. Okay, children, this is why this process is one of the major factors which affect the existence of life on Earth. Okay, children? Right. So in some countries, people die of extreme cold. Right? In these type of temperate countries, right, the countries with different seasons, you all know that they have winter season. Right? Sometimes the winter seasons are very long that some people cannot tolerate the very low temperature. Okay, therefore, some people die of extreme cold. And at the same time, in some other countries, people die of extreme heat. Which means extreme cold and extreme heat both are not good for our survival. Okay? Extreme cold and extreme heat. This tells us that there is a limit on the temperature that affects our existence. Right, children? Do you know what is the normal body temperature of a healthy human being? Now you have to memorize it. This is 37 degrees Celsius. Now there are different methods, different units used to measure the temperature. Basically we use Celsius unit, Fahrenheit unit, and there's another unit called Kelvin unit. Okay, you are going to learn about these units later, but for now you have to memorize of a healthy human being, this is the correct or this is the normal temperature, 37 degrees Celsius. So our body has to maintain this temperature. If the temperature increases extremely or decreases extremely, our body cannot maintain its functions as before. Right, children? This is why in some countries during very cold season, some people die. And in some other countries, because of extreme heat also people die. Right? So this tells us that there is a limit on the temperature that affects our existence. So for humans, this is 37 degrees Celsius. For the other animals, it depends. Okay, children? We'll move on to the next. Right. We have to learn about two terms, warm-blooded animals and cold-blooded animals. What is the meaning of warm-blooded animals, children? Now, children, even earlier I mentioned you all this. What will happen when the environmental temperature increases? We start sweating, right? So what actually happens when sweating, children? Now, when we go out, when we stand under sunlight for about 10-15 minutes, we start sweating. The reason is because of the sunlight, our temperature increases. But this is not good for our body. Therefore, our body has to reduce the increased level of temperature and bring it back to 37 degrees Celsius, which is the normal temperature of a human. Right, children? So, how can we reduce the increased amount of heat, children? By sweating. Right? So, during sweating, what happens? Using sweat glands in your skin, the sweat produces, and the sweat comes to the surface of your skin. Now, the sweat can absorb the excess amounts of body heat, and because of the body heat, now by absorbing the body heat, the temperature of the sweat increases and the sweat evaporates. Right, children? So, when the sweat evaporates, along with sweat, we can release the increased amount of body heat as well. Understand, children? What will happen when you go to a very cold area like Nuwara? We start shivering. What is the reason, children? When we go to a very cold environment, our body temperature reduces according to the environment. But this is also not good for our body. Therefore, we have to increase the body heat. Understand, children? So, how do we increase the body heat? Now, in this case, your body muscles start to move faster. This is known as contraction of muscles. Okay, children, so your body muscles start to contract really fast, and this is known as shivering. So when your body muscles contract really fast, it produces excess amounts of heat. Therefore, the reduced amount of body temperature can be increased. Right, children? So by these two incidents, it's very clear that we can control our body temperature in the same level. When we go to an environment with high temperature, we start sweating and we reduce the increased amount of body temperature. And at the same time, when we go to a very cold place, we start shivering and we increase the reduced amount of body temperature. By both these actions, we can maintain the constant amount of temperature, which is 37 degrees Celsius. So by these two incidents, it's very clear that we can maintain our body temperature at the same level, which means 37 degrees Celsius. So remember, children, the animals who can control the body temperature in the same level, whatever the environmental temperature is, are known as warm-blooded animals. Right, children? So the best example for warm-blooded animals is mammals and birds. Okay, children? So the mammals can control the same amount of temperature, whatever the temperature of the environment is. Okay, children? So therefore, they are known as warm-blooded animals, which means these type of animals have a special mechanism in their body to increase and reduce the body temperature whenever they need. What is the meaning of cold-blooded animals, children? Cold-blooded animals cannot control their body temperature according to the environmental temperature, which means when the environmental temperature increases, their body temperatures also increase. Right? When the environmental temperature reduces, their body temperature also reduces. Therefore, when there's extreme levels of environmental changes, they have to find another place to live. Understand, children? Right. So, who are the cold-blooded animals? Normally, the different types of fish, different types of amphibians or reptiles come in under cold-blooded animals. They don't have a special mechanism to control their body temperature. Okay, children? Right. Let's write this. Warm-blooded animals. The animals that can regulate and maintain constant body temperature. Constant means doesn't change, the same value, right? Maintain constant body temperature. Right? Which means their body temperature does not change with the environmental temperature. Let's write that. Their body temperature does not change with the environmental temperature. Okay, examples. Mammals and birds. Okay, let's write cold-blooded animals as well. Cold-blooded animals. The animals that cannot regulate and maintain constant body temperature. Which means their body temperature changes with the environmental temperature. Okay? Right. Their body temperature changes with the environmental temperature. Right. Examples: fish, amphibians, and reptiles. Okay, children. So we'll go through this. Warm-blooded animals. The animals that can regulate and maintain constant body temperature. That can regulate and maintain constant body temperature. Okay, children? So their body temperature does not change with the environmental temperature. Okay? So mammals and birds are the examples for warm-blooded animals. They have special mechanism to increase and decrease the body temperature whenever they need. Okay? So these are known as adaptations. Right, children? Right. So mammals, even though humans don't have fur, most of the mammals have fur. Their body is covered with fur. Therefore, they can protect the body heat as well. So when it comes to the birds, they can regulate the body temperature with the help of their feathers and their muscles as well. Okay, children? Right. Cold-blooded animals, the animals that cannot regulate and maintain constant body temperature. Therefore, what happens? Their body temperature changes. Right? It changes with the environmental temperature. Examples, fish, amphibians, and reptiles. So this is why sometimes reptiles like snakes during the daytime, because of the sunlight, when the environment gets heated up, some reptiles, some snakes hide under dried leaves. So otherwise, if their bodies get exposed to high temperature, high heat, what will happen? They cannot maintain their functions properly. Right, children? Therefore, they hide under dried leaves. Okay, children? Right, we'll move on to the next. Look at this one. The body of some animals is covered with fur. Now, I told you, warm-blooded animals have different adaptations. Adaptations means now these special characteristics that they have to live in their environments. Okay? So, the body of some animals is covered with fur. Now, look at this one. This is a polar bear. Right? Polar bear lives in polar regions where the environment is very low. So, because these type of animals live in polar regions with very cold environments, they have to protect their body heat. Right? Their body heat should not go to the environment. Therefore, to protect the body heat, they have a very thick fur coat. Okay? So, the body of some animals is covered with fur. In some animals, there is a thick fat layer too. This is another. Polar bear has a thick fat layer too. What is the importance of having a thick fat layer, children? Now, when we have a thick fat layer, it acts as an insulating layer. Right, children? Insulating layer means when there's an insulating layer, heat cannot go through the insulating layer very easily. Right, children? Now, rigiform is a type of insulator. You all know that you can keep ice inside a rigiform box for a long period of time without melting. That is because when you store these type of ice cubes in the rigiform boxes, the heat does not, the environmental temperature, the heat does not come inside and therefore it can maintain the same temperature. These type of materials where the heat does not pass through are known as insulators. Right, children? A thick fat layer also can act as a good insulating layer. Right, children? So, there's a thick fat layer. So, these are adaptations. The body of some animals is covered with fur coat. Right? So, thick fat layer. These types of adaptations help those animals to maintain their body temperature. Right, children? So, when you go through these type of adaptations, it's very clear that having a fur coat, having a thick fat layer is very important to protect the body heat. Okay, children? Right. We'll move on to this part. The type of energy that is used to increase the temperature of some object is heat. Right? The temperature of the object is increased because of the heat. When we provide heat to a certain object, its temperature increases. Now we are going to learn about these type of things in this lesson using activities. Okay, children? So when we provide heat to an object, its temperature increases. Okay, children? Our main source of heat is the sun. What is the meaning of source of heat, children? Source of heat means an object where heat is produced, heat is emitted. What is the main source of heat? That is the sun. Because even earlier we explained that the heat given by the sun is very important to maintain the functioning of the plants and animals for the existence of life. Understand, children? We'll move on to the next. Right, children. Our next topic is heat generation. I told you in the second topic we are going to discuss about how to generate heat. What are the different methods of generating heat? Okay? Right. So we are going to start this topic by doing an activity. Generating heat by rubbing palms. Right. How to do this activity? It's a very interesting activity. Method. Rub your palms with each other. What can you feel? Now you all can do this with me. I'm going to keep my pen aside. So you have to rub your palm like this. Rub it very hard. What do you feel? After a little while, you will feel your hands temperature increases. Right? Your hands get warmer. Right. You all can do this with me. So if you do it harder, you will understand that your hands get warmer really fast. Right, children? So that is because when you do this activity, because of rubbing, heat is generated. Okay, children? So under this heat generation, the first method of generating heat is by rubbing two hands, two objects. Okay, children? So sometimes even without us knowing, unintentionally, sometimes when we go to very cold areas, we do this, no? We like rub our palms together and we keep them on our cheeks so that you feel the warmth of your hands. Okay, children? That is because when we do this activity, heat is generated. Understand? Right. We'll write this one. Okay. So what is the observation, children? When we rub our palms together, the hands get warmer, right? We'll write. Due to rubbing, the hands get warmer. The hands get warmer. Okay. So due to rubbing, the hands get warmer. What is the reason? When we rub our hands together, heat is generated, and because of the heat generated, the hands get warmer. Right? So therefore, this is the first method of generating heat, by rubbing two objects. So after doing this activity, it's very clear, by rubbing two objects, we can generate heat. Okay? Conclusion. Heat can be generated by rubbing two objects. Right. Heat can be generated by rubbing two objects. So this method of generating heat was used in the ancient people to make fire. Right? They made fire by rubbing two rough stones together. Or fire can be made by rubbing two dry sticks together as well. Right, children? So in the past, man used to rub two stones together to light fire. Not only stones, you can make fire by rubbing two dry sticks together as well. So how to make fire? By rubbing two objects together, children. Two stones together. This happens because of a force called friction. Some of you must have heard this term called friction. What is friction, children? Now when we rub two objects with each other, even if we can't see, there's a resistant force created by both the objects against each other. Which means, in very simple form, they disturb the movement of each other. Right, children? This is a certain type of resistant force. They resist to move, and this resistance force is known as friction. Right, children? So, when we rub two objects together, if the two objects are very rough, more friction force is created. If more friction is created, if the friction is very high, then the heat produced is also high. Right, children? Which means when we rub two rough objects together, what will happen? There is more friction. If there is more friction, more heat is generated. When more heat is generated, because of high heat, at one point it will start fire. Okay, children. So the same thing takes place when we rub dry sticks together. Right, children? Okay. So from this we can understand that the friction between two surfaces can generate heat. Right? So we'll underline this. The friction between two surfaces can generate heat. Right, children? So we'll write, if the friction is higher, more heat can be generated. More heat can be generated. Right, children? If the friction is higher, more heat can be generated. Right? So friction is important to make fire using two stones together. Right, children? But sometimes friction can become harmful as well. So when we use different machines, right, we have to reduce the friction between the machine parts. Okay, children, this is why sometimes we use different types of machines. In between the machine parts, we put lubricants, right? So when we put lubricants, the friction between the machines reduce. Right, children? So otherwise, what will happen? What will happen if the frictions between the machine parts higher? So then the machine gets heated up and it disturbs the functioning of the machine. Right, children? Therefore, sometimes the friction is very important. The heat created by the friction is very important, and sometimes we have to reduce the heat created by friction. Right, children? Okay, now we have come to the end of the first chapter. We are going to start the next chapter now.